Hello, my dear students, and welcome to your online English class. My name is teacher CosmeRobalino, and today is Wednesday, May the 13th, 2020. Today, we are going to practice reading skills together with listening skills and some vocabulary. As you can see, we are on your Achievers book B2 on page number 54. We are still working with the unit number 5, and we have a classic story called The Ugly Duckling. So before we get into the story, let's do an introduction exercise where we are going to learn a little bit about the background. Okay, so it says here, read the introduction, then read the whole story and answer the questions. Okay, so the question number 1 says, what do you learn about the origins of the story? And the origin of the story is right here. It says, The Ugly Duckling is a fairy tale written in 1843 by the Danish writer Hans Christian Andersen. He got bullied as a boy because of his height, his looks. He had a large nose and his big feet. He is rumored to have been the illegitimate son of the Crown Prince of Denmark, which makes the swan metaphor rather interesting because apart from being a Denmark's national bird, the swan also symbolizes royalty. So that's what we learn about the origins of the story. So let's go to the next section, okay, where we have four questions before we listen to the story. So this is the question number 1 about Hans Christian Andersen. The question number 2 is about the ugly duckling and his origin. The question number 3 is about this ugly duckling and what he would have liked, and how he learned or discovered that he was a swan. Okay, so let's go to the story and let's try to answer the questions. Here you go.
The Ugly Duckling is a fairy tale written in 1843 by the Danish writer Hans Christian Andersen. Andersen himself got bullied as a boy because of his height, his looks, he had a large nose, and his big feet. He is rumoured to have been the illegitimate son of the Crown Prince of Denmark, which makes the swan metaphor rather interesting, because apart from being Denmark's national bird, the swan also symbolises royalty. The original story went something like this. Once upon a time, a mother duck was sitting on her eggs, waiting for them to hatch. One by one, the eggshells broke open, and a cute little duckling popped out. But the very last egg was much larger than the others. It took ages for its shell to break open, and the baby bird which finally emerged was very different from the other little ducklings. Had he been a cute little duckling like the rest of them, things would have been very different, and there would have been no story to tell. But he wasn't a cute little duckling. He was big, grey, and ugly. He certainly wasn't one of them. He stood out from the rest. He didn't fit in one bit. His family just couldn't accept him, and they were all really horrid to him. They constantly jeered at him and called him names. "Ugly duckling, ugly duckling," they would shout again and again. I wish they would stop shouting at me, the poor ugly duckling used to think. If only I looked more like them and wasn't so different. He put up with their taunts week after week, but finally he couldn't stand it any longer, and one day he ran away, out of the farmyard, across the fields and into the woods. As he wandered around the countryside that autumn, all the other animals he met, wild ducks, geese, a cat and a hen, were nasty to him because of the way he looked, and they all taunted him. "Ugly duckling, ugly duckling." And then, as if he didn't have enough problems to deal with, winter suddenly arrived. It got colder and colder. The land began to freeze, and there was little food to be found. The poor lonely duckling went through months of cold, hunger, and misery. He even began to wish sometimes that he was back at the farmyard. But eventually spring arrived. One morning the ugly duckling was woken by glorious sunshine as he lay amongst some reeds by a lake. He looked across the water and saw 3 beautiful large white birds gliding by. "Wow," he said to himself quietly. "I wish I was that beautiful. They're gorgeous." The ugly duckling had spoken louder than he'd intended, and one of the swans looked over at him. "You're quite gorgeous yourself," said the swan. "In fact, I don't think I've ever seen a more handsome swan." "Swan?" The ugly duckling could hardly speak. "Swan? Me?" "Yes, of course I mean you," said the gorgeous swan. "Who else is there? You're all alone, aren't you? Why don't you come and join us?" Suddenly the ugly duckling understood. The penny dropped, and it all made sense. Of course, he wasn't a duckling at all. As he flew to join the other swans, he saw the reflection of a beautiful swan in the water. It was his own reflection. As the swans greeted him enthusiastically, he heard a child shout from the edge of the lake, "Look, Mum, there's a new swan. Isn't he super?"
Okay, so this is the classic story. So now we can go to the questions. Let's answer the questions. Hans Christian Andersen had been through a similar experience to the ugly duckling. Yes, the ugly duckling came out of his shell much later than the others. The ugly duckling would have liked them not to jeer at him or make fun of him, and he learned he was a swan through a remark made by one of the swans. Okay, so let's check the answers, and they are all correct. Excellent. So now we can move on to the vocabulary. We are going to learn the expressions with get. So it says here, look at the box. Which verbs could replace the words in blue? Okay, so get is one of the most common verbs in English. It has many different meanings. Examples. More teenagers are getting cosmetic surgery. I got my sister a tattoo for her birthday. Anderson got bullied as a boy, and it got colder and colder. Okay, so more teenagers are having cosmetic surgery. I bought my sister a tattoo for her birthday. Anderson was bullied as a boy, and it became colder and colder. What happens if I click on the check button? All the answers are absolutely correct. Very good. So now we can work with the verb zone. Let's see. Here we have 5 verbs. Fit in, these are phrasal verbs. Fit in, look like, put up with, stand out, and take after. Okay, so first we need to check the meaning. Okay, so here we have the meanings. Look like is when you have a similar appearance to someone or something else. Put up with is when you accept a difficult or annoying situation. Stand out is when you are noticed because you are different in some way. To fit in is when you are similar to and accepted by other people in a group. And take after is when you are similar to someone older in your family. All right, so what happens if I click on the check button? All these answers are correct. So now we can do the exercise, which is over here. Okay, so let's see. We have here 5 phrasal verbs, these 5 phrasal verbs, and we have the conversations, the 5 conversations. So the first one says, my neighbors were playing music until 4 a.m. last night. You shouldn't have to put up with that. Have you talked to them? Next conversation. Who do you take after in your family? My dad, I think. We both got a really short temper. Next question. How's Carl getting on at his new school? I think he's finding it hard to fit in. They tease him because of his accent. Next conversation. Have you seen Julie's new purple hair? It's great. I know. I wish I had her confidence, but I hate standing out in a crowd. Look, is that the Prime Minister? No, it isn't. It's just a woman who looks a bit like her. Okay, so now I can check my answers. And, oh, I have a misspelling. Put up with, right? It's just a misspelling. Otherwise, it's correct. Okay, very good. Can I would have to redo the whole thing. Okay, so sorry about that. Okay, so the last section that we are going to do today is to find some synonyms or words that are similar in meaning. So the number one here, for example, from the story is hatch, right? When a chicken opened the egg, it's called hatch. To laugh unkindly is to jeer at with the preposition. Fly very smoothly is to glide. And very beautiful is gorgeous. Gorgeous. Okay, what happens if I check the answers? They are all correct. Excellent. Okay, very good. Okay, guys, so thank you very much for your attention today. Please don't forget that you can ask questions when we are in our online class. The class is meant for you guys to write down your questions during the video, and the floor will be open to any kind of doubts, questions in regards to the vocabulary, the grammar, the phrasal verbs that we saw today, or even about the Google Classroom. Please keep in mind that all your assignments are recorded in the Google Classroom, and that's the only way to communicate with your parents, with our authorities, the coordination, and so on. Okay, so I wish you guys have a great week, and I will see you around. Bye-bye.